Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, it's the Journalists Roundtable. We'll look at the week's top stories, including lawmakers finally finding a way to continue funding a state program for people with disabilities. The Journalists Roundtable is next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your public television station.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. It's Friday, and that means it's time for the Journalists Roundtable. And joining us tonight, Jeremy Duda of Axios Phoenix. We'd like to note that Jeremy's wife is an employee at Arizona PBS. Also joining us, Mary Jo Pitzel of the Arizona Republic and azcentral.com, and Howie Fisher of Capital Media Services. Panel, good to have you all here. Thank you so much for joining us. Jeremy, we'll start with you. Finally, $122 million funding gap. It's over, it's signed, it's done deal. What happened?
Well, it happens after, I think a couple of months of arguing over at the Capitol. They finally reached kind of a compromise agreement after the governor really kind of used her nuclear option last week and said, I will veto any bill that gets to my desk until we get a solution to this $122 million shortfall. That seems like it kind of prodded everyone into a little bit of action. The Republicans had their own plan, which the governor did not like. That actually didn't appear to have the votes to pass over at the legislature, and so they finally, on I think Wednesday night, they hammered out a deal, and everyone kind of gave a little, and the plus side is the Developmental Disabilities Program will not run out of funding in a week.
Talk more about this program and what it does.
Well, it's funding for the whole disabilities division, but the real flashpoint was a program called Parents as Paid Caregivers, as the name would suggest. This uses money to pay parents for providing care for their children with disabilities. It started during the pandemic with federal-only money. Last year, the federal contribution cut back to 2/3. The state had to put in 1/3, and Governor Hobbs agreed to do that. Apparently, it's within her right to do that, but she didn't tell lawmakers that that was the plan. And enrollment in this program has grown pretty explosively, and parents say that's because we can't find anybody out there in the private sector to come in and be caregivers, because there's a whole problem with salaries for those caregivers. So let the parent pay the parent, let them stay in the home. Many of them are giving up their careers and their jobs to care for their children, so this provides some compensation. And that's what really lit the fire on this whole 3-month
what's
exercise.
Interesting is, I think what's been clear to all of us that at some point the money was going to be there.
Yes.
The question kind of came down to what pound of flesh, so to speak, the legislature would demand. And that had to do with more oversight of certain kind of programs, limits on how many hours the parents could get paid, some other restrictions. They got maybe 6 ounces of flesh based on what was there. What it says is you can continue federally funded programs that the state absorbs. You've got waivers, they call them, and you'll be able to do that without coming back to us. But if you want to expand the program, come up with a new population, you can't ask for the federal money until you get our permission. And the reason is, as what happened here, is the federal money runs out, and it's really hard to kill a program once it's been started. So the legislature said, if we're going to sign on to this, we better know what's coming down the road. And
the Republicans, correct me if I'm wrong, wanted a limit like 20 hours a week as opposed to 40 hours a week as far as pay for these caregivers, correct?
Yeah, it was originally scaled down to 40 hours, and then I believe after a year to 20 hours, and that's where that reduction became a sticking point even among some Republican members, most notably Julie Willoughby, who made a big stand about this in committee and refused to vote for the proposal as it was because of that. They had to actually add new members to the House committee to get that passed. I think once they got to the floor, there was going to be more issues with that because, how we mentioned, this has become such a critical program, and once you start offering this, getting rid of it, and so many people depend on it, it's such an important thing, such a sympathetic and very vulnerable population this is about, and these parents who kind of give up everything, as Mary Jo mentioned, to take care of it. That's politically and just on an emotional and personal level, it is very difficult to get rid of.
And as Jeremy referred to, the governor threatened to veto everything and anything that comes in her path until something's done here. How effective was that?
Well, no bills went up to her desk. So maybe now they can flow up to her desk, and maybe probably half of them will get vetoed anyway, but it was a way to sort of flex a little
But that's
muscle.
exactly the point.
Yeah.
We know all Republican bills are going to get vetoed anyway. So she was going to veto what? the Democratic bills to the extent there were Democratic bills getting to our desks. So, I mean, it wasn't a big surprise to Republicans. I mean, we know there's a bill going up on what pronouns teachers can use. There's a bill going up on what bathrooms people can use. And so they're all out there. It was sort of a threat. It was more of a show.
So it wasn't effective, are you saying? It
I
made no
think
difference at all?
Well, what it did is it forced them to finally focus a little more because they recognized why send up anything else? Why go into what they call final reading on certain bills for the simple reason that if we send it up, she's going to veto it, so we might as well pay attention. We all know this had to be resolved by May 1st, and so let's just get it out of the way, and then we can get back to arguing with each other and calling each other names.
Like how he said earlier, I mean, it was pretty clear, from at least 6 weeks ago that they were going to fully fund the program, not just for the parent caregivers, but also for the people in the private sector who are caregivers, people who work in group homes. They need that money to keep going. Otherwise, it was all going to dry up on May 1st. But it just came down to, I also think what helped is that these parents, especially the parents as caregivers, they were down at the Capitol a lot, and they put a lot of pressure on it. And as Jeremy said, I mean, it's a very sympathetic population. And then you add to that, and I don't think this moved any Republicans, but I think it moved the public perception. Democrats kept making the point that, well, wait a minute, the school voucher program, that had fast, rapid growth, and we didn't put any limits on that.
Yeah, I heard that quite a bit. Did that make any difference at all? Probably not.
Probably not. I mean, it's something that the governor refers to pretty much on kind of a weekly basis, depending on whatever she's mad at the legislative Republicans about. But kind of going back to Howie's point, I think, did the moratorium, did the veto threat matter? It's probably the deadline, the looming deadline that mattered a lot more, combined with, these parents and their kids coming down there, and you come, face to face with these kids, and it's, you see, the special needs they have and how dependent they are on, their caregivers, and it just breaks your heart to see it. Nobody wants to get blamed for kind of leaving them in the lurch, which is, if the funding ran out, exactly what's going to happen.
And it's important to mention, I mean, this also extends to adults with disabilities, people who are maybe as children were being cared for by their parents, but they've been sent to group homes because mom and dad have perhaps passed away. I mean, there's a whole spectrum of the population that's affected, and it was pretty clear they weren't going to let them just all hang out to dry with no support.
Now, they did put in a few other things which I think the parents were okay with. For example, the care is only from like 6 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Not all of them. Because like what happens, as Senator Sundaration said, what happens if your kid has a seizure at 10:30 at night?
Well, then well, this comes down to what parents normally do. For example, it says you cannot charge for doing their laundry, preparing their meals, because you'd be doing that for your own kid. If they're at public school or they're at private school, or if they're in a clinical facility, you don't get to charge hours for them. So I think from the perspective of lawmakers, they get a few guideposts in there, coupled with the issue we talked about, which is that they're going to have to get future permission, and so the governor just can't go out and say, oh, look, I've expanded a program.
Last question here, pound of flesh aside, winners and losers in all this, and I'm talking politically, I'm talking governor's office and lawmakers.
Well, I think the governor's office is going around saying, look, we did it, we got pretty much what we wanted, we didn't have to give up much. Obviously, Mr. Livingston and some of the other Republicans saying, look, we did it too. And see, we made sure that these children are cared for. Look, come election time a year from now, I don't know. Now, there is still the recalls out there against 4 of the Republican leaders. Now, do they pursue these or not?
Politically, I'd say Representative Julie Willoughby.
Yes, the name I kept hearing.
Worked with Representative Nancy Gutierrez, a Democrat, and these 2 women put together the plan that was ultimately approved, and that moved votes. I mean, the Democrats were always going to vote to fully fund the program and have as few limits as possible. But Willoughby and Gutierrez made it work.
Willoughby from Chandler, correct?
Correct, yeah.
High profile, good win for her?
Definitely kind of raised her profile. I mean, how many legislators really have much of a profile to begin with? I mean, as opposed to Hobbs, who I think we're going to hear from the Republicans next year during her election, like, hey, we had to bail out this program because Hobbs overspent. And regardless of, the nuances of this, I think that's going to become a talking point you're going to hear on the campaign trail.
But then Hobbs will say, sure, I saved these families, all kinds of pain. Because the bills that were even introduced this week, as they're trying to get this done, were rather harsh and couldn't even get all the Republicans on board. So they were trying till the end to try to keep with that 20-hour-a-week limit. which
Really?
Right to the end.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Although,
well, I
come
mean, to
back
the day before the end.
Yeah.
Ms. Willoughby certainly got a lot of accolades, and I think she did a yeoman's job. The fact that she bucked her own party, even in a committee, so they had to bring in other Republicans to vote against her. But that does mean that the Democrats won't try to unseat her in 2026.
All right, Howie, sticking with you, we got JLBC looking at the budget, and it looks like the budget isn't quite as rosy as we had once thought.
It was, even before the president decided to blow up the economic system and tariffs and everything else, we were originally looking at a surplus for next year of some 630 million más o menos. Well, now we're down to about $230 million for surplus. What that means is, that's where all the extra programs have to come out of, including Mesnard's plan to cut income taxes, the governor's plan to provide more child care. But that surplus is less than 2% of a $17.8 billion budget. I mean, we're talking about finding the nickels and dimes in the couch. Now, what's interesting is the Joint Legislative Budget Committee, which is composed of private economists and some government economists. They're the people who go ahead and they butcher a chicken and they burn the bones and they try to figure out what it means. They're saying, we can't make a prediction when you have an economy that's been destroyed by the president. Half the state budget is sales taxes. If people are buying less,
Yes.
we're in deep trouble.
Pet priorities, Jeremy, are pet priorities basically now just shoved off to the side with these new numbers?
I mean, in a lot of cases, yeah. I mean, what we've seen, in a lot of budgets, we saw this, famously a couple of years ago, is kind of buying everyone's votes with, well, you get a project in your district here, you get a rodeo here, you get a road here, you get this and that. Like, there's just not going to be the money to kind of throw around to kind of bring people on board with that. We're going to find other ways. And going back to what the economist and what Howie was mentioning, like, that's just presuming things don't get worse, because we have a lot of forecasts of a possible recession. The economic system, because of the tariffs, is so chaotic and in flux right now that people, what we're seeing now with these numbers isn't really the big risk. What could happen with them, down the road in the very near future seems like the much bigger risk.
And did I read that JLBC ran a stress test in case there was a recession?
Right.
And boy, that didn't look very good at all.
No, the result was that for the coming budget year, 0% growth in the budget, and for the following year, a negative 2%. A 2% decline, and they noted that even the state's rainy day fund, which they do not touch, because it's never raining, wouldn't be enough to fill the gap. So there's a great tone of caution, and you don't know what's going to come down with Medicaid. I mean, Congress, has yet to play that card, and I've heard, people advise the legislature, well, don't cut Medicaid in Arizona yet because you don't know, but you better be ready. If these cuts happen, what's the plan? Would Arizona absorb some of the costs, and that Medicaid dollars pay for, among other things, disability services?
Absorb the costs. It sounds like just something we discussed with DDD funding. Is exactly the same kind of thing. The other piece of it is we have deportations going along. We have certain segments of our economy, agriculture, and to a certain extent home construction, where I'm not going on a large limb and saying there are a certain percentage of people there who are not here legally. If they really come in and start doing deportations, that too will affect the economy.
Well, and with that in mind, Jeremy, I mean, how do you negotiate a budget when the goalposts aren't just moving, they're dancing out there?
You do it very cautiously, because you don't increase spending on things that aren't absolutely critical. And you probably want to keep an eye on, like, if things get worse, where do you make these cuts from? Because if you have to start making those mid-year cuts, that's when you see the big fights. And just one real quick, I want to go back to the talk about Medicaid, because we had a Chamber of Commerce luncheon earlier this week with a lot of our congressional delegation, and Andy Biggs, congressman, former Senate president, and possible next governor, is talking about there's talk of reducing the federal match for childless adults under the Affordable Care Act, what's known as FMAP, down to 70%. Well, it's at 90% now, and that big Medicaid expansion law from 2013 says if it goes below 80%, that expansion goes away, and there you get a very large chunk of folks who are suddenly going to be out of health care, and a lot of pressure for the state to pick up the tab, but the money's probably not going to be there.
And speaking of caution, I do think you asked about pet projects, and I think if there's one thing that maybe there could be agreement on is pay raises for public safety officials. The governor's proposed it, lawmakers like it. I can't remember what the price tag is on that, but if you want to do that, you're going to have to find room someplace else. I think be ready for some haircuts on programs.
And let me emphasize part of what Jeremy's talking about. He's talking about people without insurance. Guess who ends up paying for that? It's the hospital.
Yes, and the Hospital Association, we've had
And
them
that
on the
gets into
program.
our insurance
Exactly.
rates.
Yeah, they are very concerned
They're
about
concerned.
this.
Nonprofit hospitals, which get a tax exemption, are supposed to provide a certain amount of uncompensated care. If all of a sudden now they're finding that the uncompensated care is leaving them bankrupt. Rural hospitals in particular are particularly vulnerable to this thing. So there's a lot of pressure on lawmakers that, assuming Medicare gets cut back, Medicaid gets cut back, to go ahead and backfill.
With that in mind, where are budget negotiations right now? I mean, did DDD basically take up all the oxygen?
Seems like it. I
Yeah.
mean, as far as I know and been told, there haven't been the meetings between the governor, the Speaker of the House, and the Senate President. There have been talks in the two chambers, House and Senate. They're working on their wish list, but not anything that really gets down to the nitty-gritty.
And there's another piece of this, extension of Proposition 123,
Yeah.
which has to do with the additional money. They want a $4,000 a year teacher pay raises. Both the governor and the legislature have plans, different dividing it up, how much they're taking out of the trust fund. And to a certain extent, I don't think the governor wants to get into the budget until we get an election set for Prop 123, which then also gets into the expenditure limit, which means the schools, even if they get the money, can't spend it.
And with that in mind, with everything happening out there and everything happening in Washington that has the economic picture cloudy and uncertain, does this mean you wait, you pause, or do you charge ahead and hope for what are they going to do?
You have to charge ahead. I mean, number one is, unlike the federal government, which can pass continuing resolutions, and their fiscal year runs through September 30th, we have a hard and fast June 30th deadline. Schools need to know how much they're going to have. Do they need to start laying off teachers? Because you already have a small decline in terms of the growth of kids in public schools. All this has to come together. Now, they can do some things where they can push, some years we've been here in July and August. Please, I don't happen again. But to a certain extent, you have to have a budget. You have to have a spending plan, and you have to have a revenue plan before June 30th.
Yeah, I don't expect them to actually reach an agreement for a while, so they'll probably have a little time to kind of see how things are going to work out.
Yeah, because as everyone's basically every day. You don't know what's going to happen with the economy on a daily basis.
I can see special sessions in the fall.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah, like after the start of the federal budget year on October 1, so don't go too far away.
Yes, heading into an election year. All right, Jeremy, it sounds as though Donald Trump is endorsing anyone and everyone who runs for governor on the Republican side in Arizona.
Well, he's endorsing at least two people, and which is up from the one he endorsed or at least pledged support for a few months ago. In December, he took the stage at a rally out here in Phoenix and told Karen Taylor Robson, if you run for governor, which I think you're going to have my support. And then a couple months later, Andy Biggs has decided he was going to get into that race, which complicates things because Andy Biggs is a MAGA guy. He is close with the president. He's been an ally to him for years. And this week, Trump did what I think a lot of us expected. He said, guess what? You're both great candidates. You both get an endorsement. Which means no one has it. I mean, they both have an endorsement, but obviously this is, I think, a loss for Karen Taylor Robson. She had it all to herself, and she's not. Her history is not as a MAGA person. It's not with that faction. So if you were going to be won over by a Trump endorsement, now all of a sudden you have two people to choose from, one of whom has a very long history with the MAGA movement pretty much since it started with President Trump.
And that's crucial because, when Karen Taylor Robson announced, we all counted the number of times she used the word Trump in a single press release. I counted 12, and that didn't even count her video. And she just thought that would be enough. She's seen as a Doug Ducey type moderate, which, as much as people may look back on Ducey and say, well, he didn't do a bad job for us, there are elements of this party that do not like Doug Ducey types and Jan Brewer types, which is how we got Medicaid expansion.
And that's getting out of the primary. I mean, it's obvious. This seems like it's a big hit for Karen Taylor Robson, getting out of the primary, and yet she probably still would stand a good chance in the general.
Oh, I think she would probably stand a very good chance in the general, but that's the question. Can she get there? I think the Katie Hobbs team is very happy this week to see that Trump endorsement of Biggs.
See, I'm not as convinced. That's the way I originally felt. But the fact is that Andy Biggs is no Carrie Lake. Carrie Lake annoyed members of her own party, said, if you're not with me, just get out of the party. If you're McCain type, get out of the party. Biggs is considered to be acerbic, and we've covered him as a Senate president, and he's made a few enemies over that time. But I think he's brighter than she is. I think he also recognizes that he needs to bring the folks in the party. And if he can unite the Republican Party, remember, Republicans outnumber Democrats in this state. So many people, Republicans, skipped the gubernatorial race last time because they maybe couldn't vote for Katie, but they sure aren't going to vote for Carrie.
And yet Biggs is a very big name in the East Valley, a big name here in Maricopa County. Do people in Pima County, do people in other counties around the state, do they know who Andy Biggs is?
Not necessarily yet, but they will. We have a long time to campaign, and I think as Howie mentioned, Biggs lacks some of the very unique flaws and faults that Kari Lake had as a candidate. But I still don't think there's any question that Katie Hobbs would rather see him in a general election than Karen Taylor Robson, who, despite the fact that she's campaigning and sure to say Trump endorsed Kari Taylor Robson, is more by her history kind of more of an establishment Republican. Now, Biggs is not going to say the things that Kari Lake said, but he has a track record, and especially in a year that's likely to favor Democrats with a Republican in the White House and one who seems pretty insistent on antagonizing as many people as he can. I think if you're Hobbs, you want to see your opponent go as far to the right as possible.
And I think voters will be reminded during the primary and maybe afterwards that Biggs advocated for getting rid of Medicaid in Arizona. I mean, that's not something that he supports. And we've just had this battle with the disability services and Medicaid, and when people start to weigh what that would mean.
Well, and not certifying an election, these sorts of things, these will come back, these will be headlines. Will this be a nasty, an especially nasty primary?
Oh, I'm already sharpening my pencils and got my felt tip pens out and got the video cameras and the tape recorders ready. Oh, this is going to be one for the books.
Real? You think so?
This is going to be one for the books. Karen is interesting because when she was asked about the dual endorsement, she never once mentioned, oh, by the way, he endorsed someone else. I'm so glad to have the president's endorsement. Again, a repeat of her campaign announcement, never acknowledging that. You cannot do that. She is a woman who's never served in public office other than the Board of Regents. Talk about name ID. Andy Biggs knows how to get airtime. I'm not sure that Karen knows how to do that. I'm not sure she can give the same fiery kinds of speeches. Now, she's got some money of her own because of the family, the Robeson communities and such.
And she has run for statewide office.
And she has run for statewide office, but she could become the Harold Stassen, if you will, showing a real old reference.
Well,
smokes. All right, we're not going back that far. Someone else who has run for statewide office and won and will be running again is Adrian Fontes. He says he's going to run for re-elect. What happened to all these ambitions that we thought?
I don't know. He was a potential candidate for a lot of different offices. I don't think anyone ever actually really believed that he was going to challenge Katie Hobbs in the primary. He definitely looked like he was about to get into that special election for Al Grijalva's seat. Changed course pretty quickly, and then it became pretty clear he would be seeking re-election. It was just all a matter of when he was going to announce. That happened this week, and he was definitely seeking another term.
He's taken his announcement tour around this weekend to different parts of the state, and says he wants to, he said he looks at the 2024 elections and says, look, we ran really good elections. Nobody was disputing the results. We didn't have an audit, and he sees this as building confidence in elections. I'm not sure how much of the electorate feels really confident about elections.
Alexander Culloden, the only Republican candidate. Was someone else going to, you think, raise a voice there?
Well, Gina Swoboda, the chairwoman of the Republican Party, is rumored to maybe be getting into the Republican race. So we shall see.
Well, I think, when Culloden announced, it seemed like Gina Swoboda was pretty much set to get in, I think is the impression I got. I've talked to her this week. She's leaning against it. It sounds like it's a pretty good chance that's not going to happen. I'm sure we will see another Republican candidate get in and challenge Alex Culloden for that. At least one, maybe several more. Remember, we had like a 5-way primary. I think last time.
You think so? What kind of Republican would get into this race? Do you think?
Well, I don't think many will. Here's the other interesting thing. This is the first year we're going to have a lieutenant governor position. Now, while they're not separately elected, it's part of a ticket the way you elect president, vice president. I think that's going to take a little attention away because you could have 2 people at the top of the ticket for each party, and then the Secretary of State is seen more ministerial and less the heir apparent to the governorship, which is how many times going back to Bruce Babbitt and such, the Secretary of State has become the governor.
Yeah, I mean, did people kind of forget that we're doing this lieutenant governor thing? I mean,
Right,
this is what's happened, agreed to.
It takes a little of the shine off of the Secretary of State
Yes.
thing. From a candidate point of view, I don't think the public pays a whole lot of attention to that, but it used to be you really needed to be mindful that Secretary of State could ascend to the governorship.
Yeah.
It's happened here many times.
And as Howie mentioned, every time the governor leaves town, holy smokes, there, we got to know
But
who's. And
those days are soon to end.
Yes, yes, and again, no one else in the Democratic Party would obviously take on Fontes here, but you think the Republicans might throw some more names?
Oh, I think absolutely. I think, you look what happened a few years ago when Fontes first got elected against, Mark Fincham, an election denier, someone who's, very far to the right. Culloden is very much from the same camp, backed by a lot of the same people, and I think Republicans are going to look at him and be very concerned about what that general election is going to look like if they don't put someone who's a little bit more moderate in there.
Culloden's running as the Freedom Caucus candidate, so he's got that label of the farther right ends of the Republican Party. So there's a lot of room.
All right. We will stop it right there. You got an award this week, huh?
Thank you. I give Arizona Media Association. I got inducted into the Hall of Fame, which is I'm very honored over, and you may now call me Sir Howie.
All right, congratulations. Yeah, I may.
You always did.
And I may not. Congratulations. Good to have you all here. That's it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great weekend.